I'm sure we'll have a few more people join us once we get started, but I think Kate, it's about that time.
I didn't put us on the screen. Is that okay?
Sure.
Hello, everyone. We're officially starting. Welcome to the Strong National Museum of Play's Cocktails with the
Yeah.
Creators.
That we're here.
They know we're here.
Yep. I'm Lisa Feinstein, and we are broadcasting live tonight from Play Pals. This is our interactive exhibit.
Well, how did you get it on?
Artifacts and toys such
I
as
did
dolls, stuffed
Yeah.
animals, and action figures. And if you guys mute yourself, it'll help with some of that background noise, and we can cut that out. So if everybody could just mute themselves, that'd be wonderful. In this exhibit, we have things like a larger-than-life dollhouse, we have a gun teddy bear checkup, and of course, we have a Barbie dream house and a whole bunch of Barbies behind me. And that's just a little sampling of the Barbie collection that we have. But there's all kinds of other things here, and we're here because our special guest is Jill Barad. Jill is, as you know, a legend in the toy industry, as she played a major role in the history of not only Barbie, but many iconic toys. So before we get started, let's all unmute for a minute. So unmute and let's put our hands together and let's thank Jill for joining us tonight. So let's give Jill a big round of applause.
Thank you. How sweet. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And once again, as we always do, we have guests from all over the world with us tonight. We have people from California, New York City, Connecticut, Nevada, Ohio. We have guests from Germany tonight, and of course, right here in New York. So thank you all for being here. We also have the Strong National Museum of Play's President and CEO, Steve Dubnik, with us tonight. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Lisa. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm really looking forward to this interactive discussion. And Jill, even though we haven't met in person, I look forward to doing that someday, but it's wonderful to see you virtually.
Thank you. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
And we're thrilled to have you here. We want this to be fun. We want it to be playful because here at the Strong, we love play. And so we want people to ask questions. You can do that by typing them into the chat bar, and I'll share them along the way. And our friend Kylie will also be putting some tips into the chat bar about how to do that and how to best view the show. And to make sure everybody can hear, again, please make sure that you're on mute. All righty. So that means it's time to go down to collection storage and meet Chris Bench, our co-host for this evening. Chris, are you there?
I am here, Lisa. Great to be with you all.
You're on mute. You can't hear them.
Chris is our vice president for collections, and he's our chief curator. He's in the basement of our 285,000 square foot museum, and he's down where we store and care for the world's largest collection of toys, games, dolls, electronic games, and other objects related to play. So Chris and his team of curators, librarians, archivists, conservators, and historians, they kind of have the best job in the world because they do play, but they care for what's essentially our nation's toy chest. It is the biggest collection of toys and this amazing reflection of the history of play. So Chris, I'm going to hand it off to you and tell us who we're talking to tonight.
Hey, thanks, Lisa, and thanks to all of you for being with us tonight. As you say, it's an honor to be in charge of the nation's toy chest. More than 500,000 objects here at the museum, a collection that we are constantly expanding. I just checked today, more than 6,000 more items we've added to the museum's holdings just this calendar year so far. Some of them very old, some of them very new, and all of them helping tell the story of play. But beyond that, I want to highlight our featured guest tonight, Jill Barad, who is represented through her work in our collection at the Strong in so many ways. Jill is a 2014 inductee into the Toy Association's Toy Industry Hall of Fame. And Jill Barad was one of the first female chairs and CEOs of a Fortune 500 company. Definitely a person of prominence. In her tenure, she grew the Barbie brand from $200 million to $2 billion in sales and created the most successful female action character line in the form of She-Ra, Princess of Power. And we get to hear from Jill herself exactly how she did it all. Thanks for being with us tonight, Jill.
Thank you, Chris.
So we're super excited to have you. And I just want to see if everybody has their cocktails. I don't have a fancy cocktail, but I know a lot of people have out there the Barbie girl cocktail with your peach schnapps and your vodka and a lot of good sweet things.
Is it good? Does anyone like it?
My cheap beer is good. Somebody must hold up a Barbie girl cocktail. I see one right there. Thumbs
Okay.
up on it? Yes, I got a thumbs up.
It's
Good.
really strong.
That's the idea, Tom.
All right, I'll let you guys get back to stories, but I had to call out the cocktails.
Well, all of you, it's hard to imagine that there was life before cocktails or even mocktails, and there was even life for Jill before Mattel. So as you all enjoy your cocktails, maybe we should start at the beginning or thereabouts. Jill, can you tell us a little bit about how you played when you were a kid?
Well, my favorite toy was a cash register. And I pretended that I had a store, and I would obviously be ringing sales all day long and handing out money. And that play scenario turned into a real life action as my grandparents owned pharmacies in Manhattan. And they were the pharmacies that not only had the drugs, but also had, you know, the counter with sodas and hamburgers and, you know, all kinds of cosmetics and candies and whatever. And when I was about 10 or 11, my grandmother put me on her lap because she was in charge of taking the cash and my grandfather was a pharmacist. And she literally let me take the money and made me try to figure out how much change. They didn't have computerized registers in those days that gave you the amount on the screen, so you knew what to do, which was a wonderful experience for me. Not that I didn't get it wrong a whole number of times, and of course she made it right. But as I advanced in the stores, she actually put me behind the cosmetics counter. And I literally was selling cosmetics at 12, 13 years old. I didn't know much about anything, and I kind of was winging it all the way, but I loved it. I mean, I just loved playing with the colors and the whole fantasy, you know, of cosmetics. And that really brought me to actually my first job, which was Love Cosmetics. And they came to my school. I was going to Queens College, which was part of the city colleges of New York. And they needed representatives to stand for the company. And my girlfriend and I were picked. And we literally traveled the entire East Coast. I left college and was given a car and a charge account and a whole trunk full of every color lipstick and blush and everything that you can imagine. And we thought we had hit the jackpot. So we traveled, we taught cosmeticians, we worked in stores, putting makeup on everybody. I didn't do it particularly well, but everybody thought they looked better, so that was good. And then I really missed not having graduated school. So I went back to finish and get my degree. And I ended up with a degree in psychology, English literature, and communications, acting actually. And I believe those three things really helped me tremendously in my career, especially communications and psychology. And so I thought I wanted to be a doctor. I went and I volunteered to go into the operating room at Nassau County General Hospital, which was a very big hospital. And they were doing a procedure on a woman and they decided they were going to try not to use anesthetics. And I was supposed to hold her hand and make her feel really good and not feel the pain. Well,
That's really intense.
I know, it was crazy, but I don't know if she felt the pain because I passed out when I literally saw the blood going into her and was carried out. And that was the end of my medical career. So I then decided that I knew cosmetics, so I would go back into cosmetics. And I was hired by Erno Laszlo, which is a very high-end
Yeah.
treatment line. I don't think I had anything under $150, which was a lot of money back then. But I also went on an interview for Dino De Laurentiis, who was a film producer, and he hired me. So I decided, well, I'll be an actress. So I did scenarios for him, and I was in a movie for him. And when I saw myself on television for an entire day, I thought it was like the most superficial and ridiculous thing I'd ever seen in my life. So I quit that job and, of course, went into something far less superficial, which was back to cosmetics, with Coty Cosmetics being my next stop. And I was the person in Bloomingdale's and Saks and everything else who did your makeup. And I had perfected it a little better this time. But I also found out from all of the consumers that I was dealing with that they had no clue about what color to put on their cheeks, to put on their foundation, to wear lipstick. So I kept sending ideas in. It was owned by Pfizer at the time. And the next thing I knew, they said, how would you like to join marketing? And I joined marketing for Coty. And a year and a half later, I was in charge of all Barbie cosmetics. And I loved it. I really thought it was great. But I met my husband, who happened to live in California, which didn't work out so well with me being in New York, because we were both trying to travel from coast to coast to coast. And I decided I really didn't love New York anyway. I'd rather go to California. So I left Coty and I went to California, and I looked for a job there before I was to get married. And I was hired by Wells Rich Green, who handled Max Factor.
Yep.
So I now learned the whole advertising end of the business as account executive, and then promoted to account supervisor for them, and got to work with Sam Kalish, who was Charles Revson of Revlon fame, partner for all of those years. It was a crazy situation, but I got married and I became pregnant right away. I actually had my son 9 months and 1 day after I was married. He was 2 weeks early, just so you know. So I quit and I decided I wanted to be a mom. And so I stayed home for 14 months and I watched my child sleep a whole lot. And we would play, but he would then sleep a whole lot. And my husband finally said to me, I really think you have to go out and get a job. And I said, well, there's really no place to go because there's no more cosmetic companies in LA. You know, I don't know what to do. And he said, go get a headhunter. So I went to a headhunter and gave her my background. And she said, why not go to Mattel and tell them that you'll do cosmetics for kids under the Barbie umbrella, which seemed to make a whole lot of sense. I thought it was brilliant. So I go marching off to Mattel and I meet with this man. And I said, you know, I really think I could bring something new and exciting to Mattel, like Barbie cosmetics. And he said, oh, we're already doing that. He said, I don't know, but why don't you meet the head guy around here, who happened to be a man who you all know, I think. His name is Tom Kalinske. He interviewed me and he said, listen, yeah, we're doing Barbie cosmetics, but we're going to put you on something really exciting called activities, novelties, and games. Now, I don't know if you know what that means, but I certainly didn't know what that meant. But I was just so excited to get a job. And I started on like January 3rd of 1981. And I was beholden to Tom for the rest of my life. And I will tell you for many reasons why. But my first product was a bad case of worms, which
Now,
is
Right here,
I think Chris has one.
right here for everyone to see if they're not familiar
there
with
it
this,
is.
this
Yep.
stunning product. Tell us about it, Jill.
Well, this is how you get deluded in the toy business. They told me that they had come up with this like engineering feat. You throw this sticky thing against a wall and it literally wriggles down just like a snake to the floor. Now, I was to present these to Toys R Us, which I heard was the hardest group to present to. I had never presented to any toy buyer, certainly not Toys R Us. And the samples that they gave me didn't work, but they said, don't worry, it will work when it comes to shipping it, you don't have to worry about that. Well, I had to worry that these guys were like going to boo me off the stage. So my father happened to be a television director. So I asked my father, this is the night before the presentation, I said, could you shoot a stop action video that will show these worms crawling down beautifully? And I'll write a little song and we'll play it behind it. And we literally worked till 4:30 in the morning. Okay, I ran home with the film. I literally got dressed, took a shower, ran down because my performance was at 8 a.m. and I show up and I play this video. And that is really what started my career, because it really was incredible. These worms looked fantastic.
Well, Jill,
And-
we don't have the video that you and your dad made, but we do have a commercial you might not have seen in a few years.
Oh, no, I have not seen that commercial in
let's hear
years.
the
I'd love to.
A bad case of worms is something you could really love. You can make them sit up, roll down walls, even wag their tails. And when you throw them, they'll stick close to friends, family, and new acquaintances. And with a bad case of worms, you may even make your friends squirm with delight. A bad case of worms comes with 2 play worms in a portable case. Works on most slick surfaces. New from Mattel.
You got to give me credit for the name, at least. A bad case of worms. Anyway, we sold in millions, and we got back millions and millions because they never did stick to the damn wall. And, they were lying. And the other great products of that category that I was placed in was So Perfect and Knit Magic, which were wonderful, wonderful products. But they only made like tiny, tiny little things. Like,
Can I show you something?
oh, there's Knit Magic. Yes, it made 1 tube. Is really
Okay,
what
wait.
it made.
You have to be able to see it. I made this on Knit Magic when I was 8 years old.
Fantastic.
I have had it.
Good
since I was
job.
8.
Good job.
I
Well,
wanted to
that
bring
did
it-
better actually than So Perfect, which really didn't sew anything very well. And then the games part, they gave me a game called the $1 Million or the $100,000 Pyramid, which was like a pyramid scheme game. I didn't even know what it was, but we had, and Tom can attest to this, what were called brand reviews, where you would go in and you would present to all of management your wonderful category with its numbers and its profits and its margins and everything else. And I went in and I said, well, I know you're expecting to see wonderful things, but I'm going to show you the reality of this category. And I'm going to show you why we should not be in it and we should manage out of it. And everybody thought I would literally be out of a job because I basically talked my way out of my job. But actually, no one had ever done that before. So they thought that took a lot of guts, and they saw I was right. And so I was promoted onto girls' toys, which, thank God, was something that I could relate to. And that didn't start my Barbie career at all, because first I had small dolls, and then I had large dolls, and then I had soft dolls, and then I had Barbie. So in 1983, I was given Barbie, and I was also given the task of being able to grow Barbie, which had been stagnant for a while, as there were 15 million little girls in the US, and we sold exactly 15 million Barbies. And it was felt that there was nothing more to go. In fact, Ruth Handler wrote in her book that when Barbie hit $100 million, she thought that it was over. So she bought the circus, she bought Metaflora, she bought all of these, she and Elliot bought all of these companies thinking that they never could grow it. So that was kind of the ethos at Mattel, was that you could sell fashions, you could sell some accessories, but after the one doll, it was pretty much over. So I was tasked, thank you, Tom Kalinske, with finding out a way to create multiple purchase. There was also another problem. that came up when I was on Barbie, which is everyone said to me, you know, you're a very progressive woman. Why would you be working on a doll that's basically a bimbo? I mean, and that's the word they used, which was really terrifying at the time. And they said, you know, she's got these cars, she's got these houses, she's got all this stuff, but she doesn't really work. And she's got this boyfriend and, you know, it's superficial and it's materialistic. And I really took that to heart because I felt they were right in a way. So I not only had to find a way to create multiple purchase, I had to find a way to convince moms that Barbie was a wonderful role model for their child to be playing with. So first we developed what we called the segmentation strategy. And we put together, if you can imagine, a pie, and we put lots of slices. And the first slice was play pattern. In other words, if every different Barbie had a very different play pattern, then there was a reason potentially to be able to convince mom why they needed more than one. So just as an example, when we did Totally Hair Barbie, that little girl went to her mom and said, Mommy, 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 I need Totally Hair Barbie. And she'd say, well, why do you need Totally Hair Barbie? And she'd say, well, because she has hair down to the ground. And she's the only Barbie that has hair down to the ground. And so her mom said, wow, oh, that's okay. It's under $10. That's all right. Well, 3 weeks later, that same little girl went to her mommy and she said, oh, Mommy, Mommy, I need rollerblading Barbie. And she said, wait a second, I just bought you a Barbie. Oh, no, Mommy, this is the only one who has rollerblades. And when you push them, they spark and light up. And this is the only Barbie that has rollerblades that light up, and so on and so on and so on, until the average American girl, just a few years later, owned 8 Barbies on average. Some owned 20, some owned 40, and so on. But I still had the task of making moms want to buy this doll for their kids. And so we went to our ad agency and we said, we need something that shows how Barbie really inspires girls to dream of being anything that they imagine they could be, and came up with We Girls Can Do Anything, right, Barbie? And moms went from being, 90% against Barbie to being 95% in favor of Barbie. And the explosion in Barbie happened. And do you have the commercial of We Girls?
We do.
You know it, and so does your little girl.
We girls can do anything, right, Barbie? Right, Barbie. And we girls can dream anything, right, Barbie? Right, Barbie. We can be whatever we want, aim just as high as the sky. Anything is possible as long as we try. We girls can do anything, right, Barbie? Right, Barbie. We love working from 9 to 5, but when the day is done, we girls deserve some fun. We can dream dreams and make them come true. Nothing's worth doing that we girls can't do. You moms know it too. We girls can do anything. Right, Barbie?
That commercial brings back so many memories. It defined an era, I think, for a lot of young girls.
Yeah, and I still get the chills when I watch that commercial, and happy to say that Mattel has gone back to that strategy of you can do anything and you can be anything. And it has worked because Barbie is flying off the shelves once again. So
But I think Chris has some dolls to show you from our collection.
oh, like what?
What'd you pick out, Chris? Oh,
Well, here's one that I know is dear to your heart, Lisa.
yeah.
The styling head?
Yeah, because Jill, I loved it when I was a kid, but it also kind of brings together your two careers in my mind, because it
It's
has
true,
like a whole
cosmetics.
thing and Barbie. So I was like,
That's
Chris, you have to pull that one.
And who wouldn't love a disembodied head for
It's still selling like gangbusters. So
Yeah.
When we talk about Barbie role models, we might not think about all the times that Barbie has run for president. So here's just one of those from 1991.
yeah, we did it actually in the 80s for the first time. And I got President Clinton because I was at the summit when he became president. And he did a wonderful photo of him holding Barbie. And that really was an inspirational and aspirational purchase. And kids loved playing president. And we were able to get that message across to them that you too can grow up and be president. And we still haven't gotten there, but we got a vice president. So we're getting close.
Do you have a favorite of all those Barbies, all that segmentation, one that's particularly near and dear to your heart, Jill?
Well, I only gave you one segment of the chart, which was play pattern, but then came price point. Malibu Barbie, which is celebrating her 50th anniversary this year. And then it was age, and that's my first Barbie. And then there was seasonality. And that came with Holiday Barbie, which was one of my favorite segments, and got a lot of blowback on that one because it was the first Barbie that was over $20. And everyone believed that there's no way that it would sell. And so we did about 300,000 in the first year, and we were sold out 2 weeks into Christmas. The one he's showing you now is the one that literally I had been hospitalized for my back, and I was shown a Holiday Barbie the following year that they were trying to create, and it was really not delivering. So from the hospital, I got a box of sequins and actually glued on the sequins, which became, of course, my favorite Holiday Barbie. But the whole Holiday Barbie, the second year, we sold 3 million Holiday Barbies instead of 300,000.
One of our guests, Mary, says that she had 5 Holiday Barbies and that they were special dad to daughter gifts that she got every Christmas.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I love that.
Beautiful. And the collection, I mean, people really tried to get all 10. Of course, then they went on to 11, 12, but it was the first 10 that really still hold a lot of value in the market today.
We have another viewer, Brittany, who says that she's been collecting Holiday Barbie for 30 years.
Good for you. I still have all of mine.
Yeah.
I've collected them all, and I love them, and I take very good care of them, and I've never taken them out of the box. Although I gave them to my mother every year, and she took every one of them out of the box, and they really look beautiful out of the box. So I was always jealous.
So I kind of want to, I kind of want to backtrack to it. You know, I love Barbie. Barbie's amazing, but there's also your other big female character who had a lot of power.
Yes.
I'd love to hear about She-Ra and how She-Ra came to be.
Well, Tom and all of the boys had developed Masters of the Universe, which was another $2 billion mega brand that you know, the toy world had never seen before. And I started to study it because I was a little jealous of what the guys were doing anyway. And I realized that 20% of the viewing audience of the television show were female.
I was one of them.
Yeah, and so were my nieces, who were still crazy about it. And so I went to Tom and to my boss at the time, and I said, you know, I think that we could do a sister to He-Man, who I named She-Ra because I needed something to like go along with He-Man, and I somehow thought She-Ra said it all. And she's his long lost twin sister with all of her friends. And of course, she doesn't do battle like with heavy implements and artillery. She does it with magic and smarts and ice and just sheer cleverness. But she got to have little girls saying, I have the power, which they were not saying at all. So now we had a doll with Barbie who made them think they could be anything. And they had a doll with She-Ra that made them feel that they had the power to
Yeah.
really be successful in life and to lead, not just to follow. And of course, Shira, in a year and a half, did about $300 million. And the ones who killed Shira were not the kids, it were moms. Moms were really frightened of the aggressiveness of the shows, even though they had a fabulous moral at the end, and girls still love them, and they're bringing Shira back along with He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. So I'm very, very proud of that. And thank Tom, because he was one of the few people who said, I think this is a great idea, because not everyone else thought that at all.
And so we had a catalog page up with some of the other characters around Shira. So there was a whole line of these.
Oh,
strong
there was Catra. I mean, there had to be the animals. I mean, it was literally, I mean, every kind of powerful woman, you know, whether it was someone, you know, who could fly, or someone who could turn you into ice, or someone, you know, who could literally, you know, chain you, you know, forever in lock. I mean, it was a lot of fun, and Filmation took it to heart, and they created, you know, a first anthology of how He-Man and Shira met each other in Eternia, and how they came together and how they joined forces. And it was powerful, it was beautiful, and I think it was important for girls at the time.
One of our guests actually just asked, how do you like the reboot? Do you think it's still true to that vision?
I really haven't like seen the show, so I can't comment.
Yeah.
I hope it is. What do you think? If that person has seen it, what do they think of it?
Is anybody, I'm watching for replies here. If you've seen it, let us know what you think. You know, turn on your mic for a minute.
That was Chris Harris.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Well, his mic's not working there, so we're not gonna.
Hi,
There
sorry.
he is.
We
What did you- what
loved
did you think?
the reboot. It was good. If you didn't know the original, it would stand on its own, certainly. But you know, it's like the He-Man reboot's getting some dislike on the internet, because some people just want to go back to their childhood. But I think they're both giving a really positive, updated message for today.
Yeah.
Good, good. And
Our daughter
you're
agrees
still
as well.
holding on to doing the moral at the end?
Yes. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
The overall moral is actually through the entire storyline of the show. It's not like a shoehorn in at the end of the episode.
Gotcha.
It's the overall theme that friendship and love is really what will bring you through everything.
Wonderful.
And that sounds like a message that we need today, right?
For sure, for sure. Well, I'm going to go after this and watch it.
So I think, Eric, actually, you had a commercial, didn't you? I saw another comment from a viewer was that they will never forget when they got the Crystal Castle for Christmas, and what a big deal that was. And Eric, can you play that for us and let us see?
Gleaming in the morning light, the home of Shira shining bright. Crystal Castle,
You put it together. She was sold separately. You can pretend.
magic rings shine everywhere, cause it has a secret power. Lifted high on her throne, Shira saves the world alone. The fate of the world safe in Crystal Castle, princess of power.
Crystal Castle comes with everything you see here. Shira dolls sold separately. New from Mattel.
So we see Shira there ascending to the top.
Unbelievable. That was no Castle Grayskull, I want you to know. It was our interpretation of pink and pretty power.
And then, Jill, you ascended to the power as the CEO of Mattel. Tell us about that transition.
It was quite amazing. But I really, in all of my promotions, just remember, I started as a product manager, you know, and then was promoted to director when I was pregnant, which shows you how open-minded Mattel was. I tried to hide my pregnancy actually for 4 months because I thought for sure I'd get fired or demoted or something. But that's when I got promoted as to director. And then I just kept doing my job. I never thought, and I knew that would pop out at some point. I never ever thought to myself, oh, I can't wait to be promoted. I just wanted to do the job and do it as well as I possibly could. It's right there, Tom. And so none of those things were like a plan that I had. I know there are a lot of people and women in general, who have a whole imagined time frame for what they want their careers to be. I just wanted to work as hard as I could and do as well as I could. I never thought about who I was competing with or whatever, because in the beginning, I was the only woman in the room. And certainly I was the only woman in the room when I first got promoted. But at that time, I was able to bring Mattel's management to 50% women and men, and the whole population of Mattel, not counting manufacturing, was also 50% women. I don't think it is that today. And I'd like to see that happen.
That's an amazing accomplishment.
Well, I thought that it was so important to give back because, the idea of me leading a company and being in toys, so many of being girls' toys and having so many men, it just was innocuous to me. Inaccurate and just crazy. So
Unbalanced, right? It was
very, very unbalanced.
Can I add to the Jill story?
Oh, sure. What are you going to say?
Well, I was going to say that, first of all, when you had the brand review where you said we ought to get out of the novelties and activity toys, you also used a few expletives to describe why you should have a better job in the company, which I won't repeat right now. But anyway, it's very forceful. And I would also just like to add that, I worked with an awful lot of people at Mattel, but Jill was the best in marketing, in making a product better than what the designers originally thought it was. She always added something that made products better, created products, and was the best marketing, advertising, promotion, the whole rest of the ball of wax. Besides doing the product, she was so good at all the rest of it. There's no question that she was a star and the one who would end up running the company.
Thank you, Tom.
And you acquired a lot of lines and brands and licenses, right?
Yeah, the first one was Tyco. And with Tyco came Matchbox, which then was added, and Power Wheels, actually. So with Hot Wheels, it brought what was about a $400 million category to almost $1 billion. And then after that, I saw that when girls left Barbie, they went to American Girl. And I just thought to myself, to have a little girl from the time she's like 2 until she's 15 would be, just a game changer for us. But I had heard that Pleasant Rowland didn't like me and didn't like Barbie. In fact, the story was that she developed American Girl to undo Barbie and Cabbage Patch. And so I heard that she was thinking of selling the company. And I said, oh God, we've got to go in there. And they said, oh, you better not, you're not very popular with her. And I had never even seen her or met her. But I called her and I said, I would love to meet you. And she said, okay, now she's in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm in Los Angeles. And she said, I will meet you in Chicago at the Ritz-Carlton at 9 a.m. next Wednesday. And I was like, okay, she's either going to kill me and they'll never hear from me again. Anyway, I got on the plane. I got there, 7 o'clock, I'm ordering croissants and things and trying to make the room lovely with flowers. And there's a knock at the door and in walks this very imposing woman. If any of you have seen Pleasant, she's tall and she's looming and she's beautiful. And so she walked in and she said, hi. And I went, oh, so glad you could come. Have a seat, have a croissant, have something. And she said, well, very nice that you invited me here. And I'm like, I didn't invite you here. You told me I had to be here, which I didn't say. But she said, you know, I have to tell you, what you've done with Barbie is really astounding to me. And I have to give you credit because I never thought it could happen. And all of a sudden, all of the fear and all of the trepidation just went away. And we started talking, you know, as kind of marketer, product people as we were. And we just got along gangbusters. And then she told me she was going into the hospital. She was having hernia surgery, but she would get back to me in the beginning of January, sometime in January. So I sent her a big Winnie the Pooh. We had the whole Disney license at the time, and it was carrying flowers. And they brought her this, you know, huge life-size Pooh. And she sent a note saying she had never received anything like that before. And then I got a phone call that I should fly on Super Bowl Sunday to Palm Beach in Florida, where she had one of her homes, to meet with her. So now I'm on a plane again. This time I'm going to Florida. And we go with her husband to I guess it was a sports bar, because all you heard were people screaming as we were watching the game. And of course, she's not speaking to me about anything because we couldn't hear each other whether we wanted to or not. So now, again, I'm a little confused as to why I'm there. But the next day, we really just were together alone. And she said, I'm really thinking about this, but Alan Hassenfeld wants this more than anything in the world. And he will basically do anything, you know, to have it. And I said, well, that would really go against our female pride, wouldn't it? I mean, why would we give it, you know, to a guy, you know, who are the women in his organization? Where's the dolls in his organization? And she said, no, you really have a point. Just give me a couple of days. He then, without me knowing, flies her up to Pawtucket. He has his chef and his limousine. And I mean, he rolls out the red carpet. I mean, literally promises her the world. And I get a phone call at 10 o'clock at night. And she said, Alan Hassenfeld, I mean, just literally, you know, waltzed me, you know, through the most unbelievable day of my life. And I said, did I lose you? And she said, no, you didn't lose me. And we signed the deal about 2 weeks later. And American Girl was just an amazing, amazing brand to add to our portfolio. And then we opened the first store in Chicago together.
Oh, that's fabulous.
And I remember going in there and, you know, saying to myself, you know, no one's going to believe there's going to be a Broadway show. There's going to be a cafe where your doll sits with you. There's going to be a museum. And then there's going to be all of this selling space. And the next thing we knew was like every airport had red bags that said American Girl. And who brought their daughters? Fathers. And it was the first time that fathers were seen actually shopping with their daughters with one thing in mind, to collect this historical doll from this woman who came from being a teacher and bringing, you know, that ethic to it, and in such a beautiful, beautiful way.
So when you talk about that woman to woman relationship and how that was embedded even in the purchase of the company, but also in the product itself, it relates to some of the questions that people are asking in the chat. Like, how did you navigate being the only woman in a room? Like, how did you manage to be seen as passionate but not as emotional? What kind of strategies did you have in a challenging situation like that?
You know, I always believed that I had to be myself. I remember when I first came to Mattel, and Tom may remember this too, I had come from cosmetics, as I told you. So I would dress in New York cosmetic wear, which was not necessarily Mattel toy proper attire. And I got called down to human resources.
Really?
Yeah, you know, you better watch how you dress, because, you know, we need you to look like an aspiring executive. And that meant to them that I was going to wear a gray suit or a blue suit or, you know, whatever. But that wasn't who I was. So I started wearing suits for sure, but they were pink and they were purple and they were red and they were the colors that I felt reflected me and the brands, that I were working on. And we also then added a lot of fun elements, which people may have thought as frivolous at the time, but actually that's a good picture.
I love that picture.
When we got the results of our quarters and our year, I mean, we would create a show, kind of like a little Broadway show where we would sing the results and we would have management dance and so on. And the thing that I learned is people remember song lyrics much better than speeches. So everybody who would leave the meeting knew exactly what our goals were for the next quarter and for the next year. And there was just a gaiety in the room from all the men and the women. I mean, engineers, had a livelier step when they left. But,
that's the power of play.
It's frivolous, but it wasn't frivolous. It was very well planned.
So when Kate put that picture up, I noticed the little bee on your shoulder. And one of our guests, Ellen, who was a copywriter at Mattel, I believe, actually put in the comment that she remembered that you always wore that gold bee on your shoulder because your mom gave it to you?
Yes, my mom gave it to me the day I started at Mattel. And she said to me, I just want you to know that aerodynamically bees are unable to fly, but they do. And so fly, my daughter. And that always gave me the sense that I could do whatever I really wanted to do. And she also told me at the same time, there's no such word my whole life as can't. So tell me how you can. And those positive things were things I also tried to instill in all of the people, of Mattel. It was like, don't tell me why we can't do it. Tell me how we can.
And when you say that, I have to get us to the Toy Story 2 story.
Yeah, Toy Story 2.
You can't say can't. That if that's your motto, people have to hear this story.
So anyway, we didn't go for Toy Story 1, as no big toy company did. Thinkways did, which was a company I hadn't even heard of, quite frankly. And they did very well, but none of us knew the computer animation that was so brilliantly executed by Pixar. So I went very aggressively to get Toy Story 2, thinking that we had gotten the Holy Grail. But then I learned it was a direct-to-video. It wasn't going to be a feature release. And we went to Toy Fair and we had amazing toys. We really did, like great Buzz Lightyears, great Woodies. And when we sat down to go through what the results of Toy Fair were, it was something like $30 million for the whole Toy Story line. And I said, that's impossible. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, why would we even do it for that? And they said, well, Disney has never done a sequel since they did a sequel for The Jungle Book, which was a horrible failure. And they now just do one feature and then direct to videos. So I said, well, I've got to change that. I mean, that's just doesn't work for us. So I called my counterpart at Disney, who was president of consumer products then. Her name was Ann Osberg. And I said, can you bring me up to Steve Jobs? I didn't know who, I mean, I knew who Steve Jobs was, obviously, but I had never met him and he didn't know who I was from Adam. But she made an appointment and we flew up and we get into a room and there's Steve Jobs and John Lasseter and all of the people who were working on Toy Story. And I looked Steve in the eye and I said, listen, if you had a choice of having a business that could do $500 million or something like $100 million or less, I mean, what would you choose? And he said, well, of course I would choose. And I said, well, then you have to stop this direct-to-video and you've got to make this a feature release. And John Lasseter went crazy. He said, we're 60% done. It's a different pixelation. We're not going to stop now. It'll delay the release. I mean, we're not doing that. And Eisner will never agree to that. Peter Schneider will never agree to that. And I looked at Steve Jobs and I said, listen, let's go to Disney. All they can say is no. But if they say yes, it's a lot more money for everybody. So a week later, we all traipse over to Disney. And first we go to Peter Schneider and he says, no, he's on John Lasseter's side. But then we go to Eisner and he said, you really think that's as big a difference in financials? And I said, absolutely. And I know that Mattel will do 300 million. So all the other licensees, I mean, can't imagine what they'll do. And he said, go do it. And then Steve Jobs went back to Pixar and he said, let's do it. And John Lasseter said, okay, let's do it. And now he's on a film saying he decided to do it. And that's how Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 3 came, but that is not the truth. They listened and they changed it and they delayed it. But when it opened, we did $350 million on Toy Story 2. And they asked me to join the board of Pixar, which is what I did. So it was a wonderful experience and had a wonderful relationship with Steve Jobs. While I was on the board of Microsoft, which was a whole nother story to have both of them, who I never ever mentioned to the other. I just want you to know.
And I think Chris has some toys down there from Toy Story, but he also has some of the other things. So Chris, I'll let you share some things.
Sure. Well, there are some earlier products and some other products on the table here that we didn't get a chance to bring up. Amongst the licenses that you mentioned, Lisa and me, we're getting the Disney license for Mattel.
Oh, wait. This is the best story ever. This really is, because I don't think anybody knows this. But they had another rule at Disney that you could not market more than one princess at a time. So if you were doing Cinderella, you could not do Snow White and Sleeping Beauty or Ariel or whatever. You could only do Cinderella. And then the following year, you could stop Cinderella and you could do another. Why that was a strategy is beyond my understanding, but that's what it was. And I said, time to go back to Disney because this is ridiculous. I mean, the kind of footage that we can have at retail with multiple princesses, I mean, we'll give them a stronghold in the toy aisle like only Barbie has. So went back, had to go all the way up to Eisner again. And they said, okay, but if you fail and this doesn't work, we're going to take the license away. And I said, that's fair. That's fair. And you all know the history of that. And it is now still one of their best-selling franchises are the Disney princesses, which Mattel lost to my broken heart. But hopefully they'll get it back one day.
Chris, what else do you got down there?
Well, when you got Tyco, in addition to Matchbox, there was this
we got Tickle Elmo. That's right. And we got Neil Friedman, who was just one of the great guys of all times, who I promoted onto not only Sesame Street and what we had acquired from Tyco, but also all of Fisher Price. And he made such a huge difference. So when he came in, it was the first year of Tickle Me Elmo. They only had 30,000 pieces. So, you know, it was so crazed. I mean, he went on TV shows. I mean, he did everything to make this toy sing. And the following year did 300,000. And the following year he did 3 million. And he is definitely responsible for Tickle Me Elmo. But of course, I got all of the kudos from my family, who then when no one else could get a Tickle Me Elmo, I had one.
So whose idea was the actual tickling?
It actually was in Tyco. It was the developers along with Neil.
Chris, who else you got there?
Well, I've got a different plush critter, one of the Popples.
Yeah.
Popples, from American Greetings. I mean, that was just like the sweetest toy ever. They rolled up in a ball and then they unrolled. And now another toy company has launched Popple. So all of these things like Rainbow Bright, which I introduced with Hallmark. Oh, there's Lurky.
I got this is
I
my
mean-
Lurky from when I was little.
Lurky, you little girl.
And I've got Rainbow Bright as well, so you can't have a Lurky without Rainbow Bright.
Rainbow Bright, the greatest story behind that was we shot a commercial. It was so bad and it was so expensive. And everybody said, you know, we just have to go with it. And I said, there's no way. We have to create the Rainbow Land. And we spent even more money, but the commercial was, I think, one of the most beautiful commercials we ever did with Ogilvy. And it was very, very successful for us. And it's still successful today with another toy company.
Now we only have 5 minutes left, and I know the toys are fun and the characters are fun, but one of the most transformative things you did at Mattel had to do with philanthropy, right?
Yes. Well, up until that point, when I became CEO, and I looked at the foundation because I was on the foundation committee as a board member, I saw that Mattel was all over the place, but there was nothing that really set their legacy in the home where they were born. And that was in LA. So I went with Glenn Bozarth, who was our corporate communications. And I said, listen, we have to do something for children. It has to be in Los Angeles. And let's go to the hospitals and see if we can get a children's hospital with the name. We went to Cedars-Sinai first, and they said, oh, well, you can have the playroom or something. And we're like, no, that's not going to work. And we went to UCLA and we said, no, we want a literal children's hospital with the name of Mattel. And we negotiated it that day that we went in about a few hours. And we came up with, for $25 million, that we would have the Mattel Children's Hospital at UCLA. And we went back to the board of directors, and everybody said the greatest thing that we'll ever do. And I will tell you from the bottom of my heart, it was the greatest thing that I ever did there. And I loved it so much that my husband and I, we donated money, and we created the Children's Bone Marrow Transplant Unit.
That's amazing.
And it's still now one of the best children's hospitals in the world, and Mattel is still very, very involved. And I was involved for years, being on the board as well as being on the board of their medical schools and medical sciences. And it's a beautiful hospital, and it does incredible things for children. And Mattel is very, very proud to have their name on it.
And it's a great pairing when you think about children, especially children who might be sick. Play and the whole idea of play is such a powerful force to help you heal, to help you move beyond things. So it really is a great pairing, Jill. And it's
when you go to the hospital and you see them driving at Power Wheels down.
Yes,
the
yes,
hospital,
yeah.
it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing.
And
But I wouldn't have had that job if it wasn't for Tom Kalinske. I tell him that all the time, the smartest man I know, not because he hired me, because of what he created while he was there that I was able to continue on.
No, Jill, I just recognize brilliance in you.
And I saw it in you, and I knew that we would be a pair forever, and we are.
And
So-
Tom serves on the museum's board, and so we're really grateful for that too.
So
Thank you,
lucky
Tom.
to have him. So lucky.
And you know, our mission here is to preserve the history of play and to provide play experiences for people of all ages. And one of our big jobs is to preserve your legacy, Jill, but the legacy of the characters too. And why are you a friend of the museum? Why are you doing this for us? And what kind of value do you see in the work that we do, preserving the history of play?
I don't think anybody has amassed, I mean, the kind of, I mean, product and understanding. And, you know, it's not just about having the toys. I mean, that is incredible unto itself, but you know all the stories behind those toys. So there is just a deep, rich understanding that doesn't exist anywhere but in the manufacturers who only have blinders really on, for their stuff in that period of time. You're going back from the beginning all the way to now. So, what you have in the museum and in your brains and in your papers and archives is something that doesn't exist anywhere in the world.
Thank you. That's really why we're here. And it's people like Chris, down in collections, our head curator, and his team that are just have so much knowledge, and they're sharing it with all these 600,000 people a year. So we are out of time, but we are very grateful for all the stories you shared and everything that you've done to transform play, especially the way the little girls play. I think that's really very valuable in our society. Thank you to all of our guests tonight. Your donations for this event help to support the museum. So thank you for supporting us. We hope that you'll come see us soon if you haven't seen us before. And we hope that you'll continue supporting us and being friends with us. So thank you, Jill.
Thank you. Thank you. And Tom, I watched your whole Cocktails with Creators and it was brilliant. And that's how I was able to do this, because I saw you do it.
Thank you,
so much.
everybody.
better.
All right.
Take care.
Take care, everybody. Have a great evening. Kate, why don't you play us out?
Bye.